The Stoic art of manifesting peace. Your mind can destroy a peaceful life without making a sound. It can ruin a beautiful morning before breakfast. It can turn one unanswered message into a catastrophe. It can transform uncertainty into 100 imagined disasters. It can make tomorrow feel more important than today. And it can make you chase things you don't even want. You call it ambition. Sometimes it's fear. You call it manifestation. Sometimes it is desperation wearing prettier clothes. You call it protecting your energy. Sometimes it is simply avoiding reality. There is another way, a quieter way, a stronger way. You don't need to control everything. You need to stop fighting everything. You don't need to force peace into existence. You need to remove what keeps disturbing it. You don't need to manifest a perfect life. You need to build a mind that survives imperfection. That is where real freedom begins. Not with getting everything you want, with becoming steady enough to choose wisely. Because a peaceful mind changes what you pursue. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you notice. It changes what you believe you need. And eventually it changes your entire life, not through magic, through attention, through discipline, through deliberate action, through acceptance, through knowing when to push and knowing when to release. That is the deeper meaning behind manifestation. You don't command reality with your thoughts. You align your thoughts with your actions. You clarify what matters. You remove what doesn't. You stop feeding unnecessary fear. You stop chasing every shiny possibility. You stop giving strangers access to your nervous system. You stop allowing yesterday to control today. Then something unexpected happens. Your life begins feeling lighter. Not because everything changed, because you changed your relationship with everything. Chapter I, the mind that never stops. There is a room inside your mind. You spent every waking hour there. Sometimes it feels peaceful. Sometimes it feels like a train station. Thoughts arrive constantly. Some are useful, some are old, some are borrowed, some are completely imaginary, yet you treat them all equally. That is the problem. A thought appears. You believe it. Another thought appears. You follow it. Another appears. You fear it. Soon, your entire day belongs to your mind. You aren't choosing your attention anymore. Your attention is choosing you. A notification appears. Your hand reaches for your phone. Someone looks distant. You wonder what happened. A bill arrives. You imagine the worst. A friend doesn't respond. You create an explanation. A door closes. You assume another door won't open. The mind hates empty spaces. It fills uncertainty with stories. And anxious stories feel strangely convincing. They contain details, they contain images, they contain imagined conversations, they contain possible futures, but possibility is not reality. This distinction matters. Your mind can simulate pain without evidence. It can rehearse rejection before anyone rejects you. It can rehearse failure before you even begin. It can rehearse abandonment before anyone leaves. It can rehearse humiliation before anyone speaks. You experience an imaginary event physically. Your shoulders tighten, your breathing changes, your stomach reacts, your thoughts accelerate, then you wonder why you're exhausted. You spent the day fighting invisible battles. The first Stoic question, when a thought becomes overwhelming, pause. Ask one question. Is this happening now? Not tomorrow, not next month, not in an imagined conversation. Now, what is actually happening? Maybe you're sitting at a desk. Maybe rain is hitting the window. Maybe your coffee is getting cold. Maybe your phone is silent. Maybe nothing terrible is happening. Your mind simply started predicting. That prediction can feel real. But feelings aren't always forecasts. Fear is information. It isn't always instruction. Anxiety is a signal. It isn't always truth. You don't need to fight every thought. You need to examine it. That small distinction creates space, and space creates choice. The danger of can't manifestation has become an interesting cultural idea. People make vision boards. They repeat affirmations. They visualize future success. They imagine relationships. They imagine money. They imagine perfect homes. They imagine perfect bodies. They imagine perfect careers. Visualization can be useful. Clear goals can be useful. Hope can be powerful. But there is a hidden trap. You can become obsessed with the outcome. Then every delay feels like failure. Every obstacle feels like bad energy. Every disappointment feels like the universe rejecting you. That creates another form of anxiety. Now you aren't simply living. You're monitoring reality. Is it working? Is it coming? Did I manifest correctly? Am I aligned enough? Why hasn't it happened? The mind becomes tense again. You wanted peace. You created another performance. You wanted freedom. You created another scoreboard. That isn't peace. Real mental strength requires something different. You can desire something deeply and still release your obsession with timing. You can work towards something and still accept uncertainty. You can imagine a better future and still live inside the present. That balance is powerful. Desire without desperation. Desire itself isn't the enemy. Wanting a better life isn't weakness. Ambition isn't automatically attachment. You can want more, you can build more, you can dream bigger. But ask yourself something. What happens if I don't get this? That question reveals your attachment. If the answer is, my life is over, then the desire has become a dependency. If the answer is, I'll be disappointed, but I'll adapt, you have something stronger. You have resilience. The goal isn't to stop wanting. The goal is to stop worshiping outcomes. You can pursue the opportunity. You don't need to worship it. You can love someone. You don't need to own them. You can build wealth. You don't need to make money your identity. You can seek recognition. You don't need recognition to prove your worth. You can pursue success. You don't need success to justify your existence. That is emotional freedom. Your attention is your real energy. People often talk about protecting energy. But what is energy? Often, it is attention. What receives your attention receives your life. Think about that. Every hour has a cost. Every argument costs attention. Every unnecessary comparison costs attention. Every social media scroll costs attention. Every imagined conflict costs attention. Every obsession costs attention. Every repeated regret costs attention. Your life gets divided into tiny pieces. Then you wonder why you feel scattered. Your mind isn't necessarily weak. It may simply be overcommitted. Too many open tabs, too many emotional conversations, too many unfinished decisions, too many opinions, too many notifications, too many imagined futures. Your first act of peace is subtraction. Close some tabs, not literally, mentally. Stop following every thought. Stop answering every provocation. Stop researching every fear. Stop checking every reaction. Stop measuring yourself against everyone. Your attention needs boundaries. The morning before the world enters there is something powerful about protecting your first hour before messages, before headlines, before arguments, before other people's expectations. Give yourself silence. Sit near a window. Drink something warm. Let your mind arrive slowly. Ask 3 questions. What matters today? What is mine to control? What can wait? That's enough. You don't need a complicated ritual. You need intentional attention. Maybe today brings difficult news. Maybe someone disappoints you. Maybe plans collapse. Maybe nothing goes according to schedule. Your morning won't prevent that, but it can change your starting position. You begin centered, not already reacting. That difference compounds. The first thing you must stop manifesting certainty. You don't need certainty. You need capacity. Certainty says nothing bad will happen. Capacity says if something happens, I'll handle it. Certainty is fragile. Capacity is durable. You cannot guarantee someone's loyalty. You can become better at recognizing unhealthy behavior. You cannot guarantee career success. You can improve your skills. You cannot guarantee perfect health. You can care for your body responsibly. You cannot guarantee everyone will like you. You can become comfortable with disagreement. You cannot guarantee tomorrow. You can become present today. This is a more mature form of hope. It doesn't promise perfection. It promises adaptation. Chapter 2, The Art of Letting Go. Most mental exhaustion comes from one mistake. We keep trying to negotiate with reality. We tell ourselves, this shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't feel this. They should understand. Stop. Things should be different. The word should can become a prison. Reality doesn't consult your expectations. It simply arrives. Sometimes gently, sometimes brutally, sometimes beautifully, sometimes unexpectedly. Your task isn't approving everything. Your task is responding to what exists. That requires acceptance. Acceptance sounds passive. It isn't. Acceptance is seeing clearly. You can't solve a problem you refuse to acknowledge. You can't leave a situation you keep romanticizing. You can't change a pattern you keep denying. You can't heal what you keep pretending doesn't hurt. Acceptance is the beginning of action. Is not giving up. This distinction matters. If you accept that someone treated you poorly, you can leave. If you accept that a plan failed, you can rebuild. If you accept that someone doesn't love you, you can grieve. If you accept that a career isn't working, you can change direction. If you accept that your past cannot change, you can stop revisiting it. Acceptance removes the argument. Then your energy becomes available. Why did this happen? You start asking, what now? That question is powerful. What now? Not why me, not how could they, not what if. What now? The question returns you to agency. When someone leaves, there are losses you cannot prevent. Someone changes. Someone chooses away. Someone chooses differently. Someone stops showing up. Your mind wants an explanation. Sometimes you get one, sometimes you don't. You replay conversations, you examine details, you search for the exact moment everything changed. You believe enough analysis will reverse the outcome. It won't. At some point, you must stop interrogating the past, not because it doesn't matter, because the past has finished speaking. You can learn from it. You can grieve it. You can honor what it meant. Then you release the unanswered questions. Some endings remain incomplete. You can still move forward. The fantasy of control feels comforting. If you can control everything, nothing can surprise you. So you plan, you prepare, you monitor, you anticipate, you double-check, you rehearse, you predict, you seek reassurance. And still, something unexpected happens. Because life doesn't obey spreadsheets, people have free will. Circumstances change. Markets move. Plans clisps. Weather changes. Bodies change. Opportunities disappear. New ones appear. The stronger response isn't more control. It's better adaptation. Ask, what can I influence? Then act there. Asked, what cannot be influenced? Then stop wrestling with it. That isn't weakness. It's intelligent allocation of effort. Protecting your energy from other people. You don't need to hate anyone. You don't need dramatic exits. You don't need to announce every boundary. Sometimes protection looks boring. You answer later. You don't engage. You change the subject. You leave the room. You stop explaining. You reduce access. You don't share everything. You choose carefully who receives your vulnerability. That is enough. Not everyone deserves the deepest version of you. Not everyone has earned access. This isn't arrogance, it's discernment. Your inner world is valuable. Treat it accordingly. The people always need a reaction. Some people communicate through emotional pressure. They provoke, they accuse, they exaggerate. They create urgency. Then they watch you react. Your reaction becomes their leverage. The solution isn't becoming emotionless. It's creating a pause. Someone says something provocative. Don't answer immediately. Take a breath. Feel your feet. Notice your body. Then choose. Maybe you respond. Maybe you don't. The pause gives you something valuable. Distance. And distance gives you judgment. Why calmness can feel like weakness. Some people confuse intensity with strength. The loudest person appears powerful. The fastest response appears confident. The emotional reaction appears passionate. But calmness requires control. You can be furious and still choose your words. You can be hurt and still protect your dignity. You can be afraid and still act responsibly. You can disagree and still remain respectful. That is not weakness. That is regulated strength. The strongest response isn't always the biggest response. Sometimes it is the smallest one. The power of a slow response imagines receiving an upsetting message. Your heart changes immediately. Your mind creates 10 replies. You want to defend yourself. You want them to understand. You want to correct everything. Your fingers hover above the keyboard. Stops. Put the phone down. Walk away. Drink water. Let your body settle. Return later. The situation may still matter, but your response will be different. You may delete half your draft. You may realize you don't need to respond. You may choose one sentence. That sentence can protect an entire relationship or protect your peace. Delayed response isn't avoidance. Sometimes it is wisdom. Manifestation through action. If you want a different life, begin differently. Not magically, practically. Want more confidence? Keep promises to yourself. Want more peace? Reduce unnecessary stimulation. Want better relationships? Become more honest. Want financial stability? Learn useful skills. Want meaningful work? Create consistently. Want stronger boundaries? Practice saying no. Want less anxiety? Stop feeding every hypothetical. Want more self-trust? Do what you said you'd do. This is manifestation without fantasy. Your repeated actions create evidence. Evidence creates self-trust. Self-trust creates calm. Calm improves decisions. Better decisions change outcomes. That is a real chain. Awareness behind the desire, and instead of asking, what do I want? Ask, who must I become? Suppose you want peace. What does a peaceful woman do? She doesn't chase every argument. She protects her mornings. She sleeps when possible. She chooses relationships carefully. She doesn't need constant validation. She knows when to walk away. She doesn't obsess over uncontrollable outcomes. She accepts uncertainty. She takes responsibility. Suppose you want confidence. What does a confident woman do? She keeps promises. She speaks honestly. She tolerates disagreement. She learns from mistakes. She doesn't need to appear perfect. She doesn't constantly compare. She acts before feeling completely ready. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates evidence. Evidence creates identity. The cycle works both ways. Don't manifest the person. This is especially important in relationships. You may want someone specific. You imagine their messages. You imagine their commitment. You imagine a future together. You interpret every sign. You search for confirmation. You call it manifestation. But attachment can disguise itself as spirituality. You cannot think another person into loving you. You cannot visualize another person's free will away. You can clarify the kind of relationship you want. You can become the kind of partner you respect. You can communicate clearly. You can choose people with compatible values. Then you allow reality to answer. Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no. Both answers contain information. Relationships with your own esotericism. Sometimes we want things because everyone else wants them. The expensive apartment, the impressive title, the perfect relationship, the perfect body, the perfect lifestyle, the perfect vacation, the perfect online image. But ask, would I want this privately? Would you still want it without an audience? Would you still want it without posting? Would you still want it without praise? Would you still want it if nobody knew? That question removes performance. And sometimes the answer surprises you. You realize the dream belonged to someone else. Maybe your parents, maybe your peers, maybe social media, maybe an old version of yourself. Letting go of borrowed desires creates enormous peace. The quiet power of wanting less more isn't always freedom. More possessions require more maintenance. More commitments require more time. More social connections require more emotional energy. More goals require more attention. More visibility creates more opinions. Sometimes peace requires less, fewer obligations, fewer arguments, fewer notifications, fewer unnecessary possessions, fewer people with access, fewer promises, fewer distractions, fewer artificial emergencies. Minimalism isn't only about objects. It can be mental. You can simplify your inner world. Not everything deserves a reaction. Not everything deserves analysis. Not everything deserves an opinion. Not everything deserves your energy. That realization feels like opening a window. Chapter 3. The mind that becomes home. A calm mind isn't empty. It is organized. Thoughts still arrive. Emotions still rise. Problems still appear. But you don't become every thought. You don't obey every feeling. You don't chase every fear. You don't worship every desire. You observe. You evaluate. You choose. This creates inner space. And inner space is freedom. The morning practice. You don't need an elaborate routine. Begin before the phone. Sit quietly. Take a few slow breaths. Notice the room. Notice the light. Notice the temperature. Notice your thoughts. Don't fight them. Let them pass. Then ask, what is actually required today? Not everything feels urgent. Some things are simply loud. Choose 3 meaningful priorities. That's enough. Then ask, what might disturb my peace? Maybe an argument. Maybe a difficult meeting. Maybe uncertainty. Maybe a person. Prepare internally. Not for catastrophe. For composure. Tell yourself, I don't control what arrives. I control how I meet it. Then begin. The evening practice at night. Review your day. Not with cruelty. With honesty. Ask, where did I react unnecessarily? Where did I act with courage? Where did I chase approval? Where did I protect my peace? What did I control well? What did I try controlling? What can I release tonight? Don't turn reflection into self-punishment. The purpose is adjustment. You are training attention. You are training judgment. You are training restraint. Tomorrow gives you another opportunity. The 3 circles. Imagine 3 circles. The first contains what you control, your actions, your words, your choices, your preparation, your attention, your habits, your response. The second contains what you influence, relationships, work outcomes, conversations, reputation, opportunities. You can influence these. You cannot guarantee them. The third contains what you cannot control, other people's thoughts, past events, random events, timing, public opinion, other people's choices. Most anxiety comes from living in circle 3. Most progress happens in circle 1. Move your attention accordingly. What to do? When anxiety arrives, don't immediately ask, how do I make this disappear? Ask, what is this trying to tell me? Maybe you need rest. Maybe something requires action. Maybe you're avoiding a conversation. Maybe you're overstimulated. Maybe you're imagining the future. Maybe you need information. Maybe you need to accept uncertainty. Listen, then separate signal from noise. If action is needed, act. If acceptance is needed, accept. If rest is needed, rest. If nothing can be done, release. This is much more useful than fighting yourself. This is the difference between rest and escape. Sometimes you need rest, sometimes you need distraction, but they aren't identical. Rest restores you. Escape postpones something. If you constantly scroll to avoid thinking, ask why. If you constantly stay busy to avoid feeling, ask why. If you constantly chase entertainment, ask why. Silence can reveal what noise was covering. That can feel uncomfortable. Stay for a moment. You don't have to solve everything. You can simply notice. Something inside me needs attention. That awareness is already progress. Before the mind admits that your mind can rationalize almost anything. Your body sometimes disagrees, your shoulders stay tense, your jaw tightens. Sometimes your sleep becomes restless, your breathing becomes shallow, your stomach feels heavy. You keep saying, "I'm fine," but your body keeps answering, "Not really." Listen without panic. Maybe you're overcommitted. Maybe you're ignoring resentment. Maybe you're constantly available. Maybe you're living against your values. Maybe you're trying to impress everyone. Your body isn't always giving you the complete answer, but it can be an important signal. Stop making every feeling a command. You feel afraid. That doesn't mean stop. You feel angry. That doesn't mean speak. You feel guilty. That doesn't mean apologize. You feel excited. That doesn't mean commit. You feel attracted. That doesn't mean trust. You feel rejected. That doesn't mean you're worthless. Emotions are experiences. They aren't always instructions. Give them space, then choose. This is one of the greatest forms of self-mastery. When you want everything at once, modern life creates endless appetite. There is always another goal, another upgrade, another destination, another achievement, another relationship milestone, another number, another comparison. You finally get something. The mind immediately asks, next. That cycle never ends by itself. You must interrupt it. Pause. Look around. This moment is already happening. Your current life deserves attentions. Not because you should stop growing, because growth without presence becomes endless dissatisfaction. You can build the future without abandoning today. The Stoic form of manifestation, perhaps manifestation, is best understood differently. Not as commanding the universe, as commanding your attention. You decide what deserves focus. You decide what deserves action. You decide what deserves release. You decide which values guide you. Then your behavior becomes coherent. Coherent behavior produces consistent results. Not always. Life remains unpredictable, but your odds change, your relationships change, your habits change, your environment changes, your confidence changes, your opportunities change. Because you change what you repeatedly do. That is powerful enough. You don't need supernatural certainty. You need disciplined consistency. The 5-minute reset when your mind becomes chaotic. Stop. Put your phone away. Sit down. Place both feet on the floor. Take a slow breath. Look around the room. Name what is actually happening. Not what might happen, what is happening. Then ask, what can I do next? One thing, not 10. 1. Send the email. Drink water. Take the walk. Make the call. Close the laptop. Apologize. Say no. Begin the work. Rest. One action restores agency. Agency reduces helplessness, the power of a single decision. Sometimes your life feels overwhelming. Too many problems, too many choices, too many responsibilities. Don't solve your entire life tonight. Solve one decision. What needs deciding? Choose, then move. Your mind often becomes calmer after commitment. Indecision keeps doors open. Open doors consume attention. A decision closes unnecessary loops. That doesn't mean every decision must be permanent. You can adjust. But constant hesitation creates invisible exhaustion. Choose carefully, then commit for long enough to learn. The energy you give to your past deserves compassion. It doesn't deserve unlimited control. You can remember. You don't need to relive. You can learn. You don't need to punish yourself. You can regret. You don't need to become regret. You can miss someone. You don't need to chase them. You can acknowledge mistakes. You don't need to become those mistakes. Your past explains you. It doesn't have to command you. Forgiveness without reconnection. You can forgive someone internally. That doesn't require giving them access again. Forgiveness can mean, I refuse to carry this everywhere. It doesn't mean what happened was acceptable. You can learn the lesson. Keep the boundary. Release the obsession. That is enough. Peace doesn't require pretending. It requires honesty without endless attachment. When the future feels scary, the future is always uncertain. That's why it can feel terrifying. But uncertainty also contains possibility. You don't know what tomorrow brings. That is frightening. It is also freeing. You don't know which conversation changes your life. You don't know which opportunity appears. You don't know which skill becomes valuable. You don't know who you'll meet. You don't know how much you'll grow. The future isn't only a threat, it's also unwritten. So stop demanding certainty from it. Prepare where preparation helps. Then live. You don't need to manifest. A perfect life, perfect lives exist mostly in edited images. Real life contains ordinary mornings. It contains delayed messages. It contains mistakes. It contains awkward conversations. It contains bills. It contains uncertainty. It contains loneliness sometimes. It contains disappointment. It contains beautiful surprises too. A peaceful life isn't one without problems. It's one where problems don't own your identity. You can have a difficult day and still have a good life. You can lose something and still remain whole. You can fail and still remain worthy. You can be misunderstood and still know yourself. That's resilience. The woman. Trust. Hurls imagine a woman who trusts herself, not because she always chooses correctly. She doesn't. She trusts herself because she can recover, she can apologize, she can learn, she can change direction, she can tolerate discomfort, she can walk away, she can begin again. She doesn't need every decision to work. She needs confidence in her ability to respond. That changes everything. Failure becomes information. Rejection becomes information. Delay becomes information. Criticism becomes information. Success becomes information. Nothing has to become an identity. Trust is built in small moments. You don't wake up with it. You build it. You say you'll wake up, then you do. You say you'll finish something, then you finish. You say you'll stop checking, then you stop. You say you'll protect your time, then you protect it. You say you'll leave when disrespected, then you leave. Every kept promise becomes evidence. Evidence becomes trust. Trust becomes calm. Calm becomes courage. Courage becomes action. Action changes your life. It starts very small. The end of depation. You can enjoy praise. You don't need it to function. You can appreciate compliments. You don't need them to feel real. You can accept criticism. You don't need to collapse under it. You can hear disagreement. You don't need to defend everything. You can post something. You don't need everyone to like it. You can succeed quietly. You don't need an audience. This creates an unusual kind of freedom. Your inner world becomes less crowded. What it means to protect your peace, protecting peace, doesn't mean avoiding difficult things. Sometimes peace requires difficult action, leaving a harmful situation, having an uncomfortable conversation, admitting the truth, ending an unhealthy habit, setting a boundary, asking for help, changing direction. Peace isn't always comfortable. Sometimes peace begins with discomfort. You choose temporary discomfort instead of permanent self-betrayal. That is a worthwhile trade. The cost of always being available, your phone can create artificial urgency. Every message feels important. Every notification feels like a request. Every request feels like responsibility. But availability is not the same as love. You can care deeply and still respond later. You can be supportive and still need rest. You can be generous and still have limits. Your attention is not public property. Treat it as something valuable. When nothing got done, some nights feel unproductive. You didn't finish everything. You didn't achieve enough. You didn't maximize the day. And the mind begins criticizing. But perhaps you needed recovery. Perhaps your capacity was lower. Perhaps your expectations were unrealistic. You don't need to turn every day into proof. Some days are for building. Some days are for maintaining. Some days are for recovering. A life isn't measured by one day. Zoom out. The morning after failure often makes the mind dramatic. This changes everything. I'm behind. I ruined it. Everyone knows. Maybe none of that is true. You failed at something. That's all. Make the sentence smaller. I failed at this. Not, I'm a failure. Specific language creates perspective. Then ask, what did this teach me? Maybe preparation was weak. Maybe the goal was wrong. Maybe timing was bad. Maybe you need new skills. Take the lesson. Continue. When you read good news, Stoics, calm matters here too. Success can create attachment. You finally get the thing. You celebrate. Then fear appears. What if I lose it? Enjoyment becomes anxiety. Don't let future loss steal present gratitude. Appreciate what exists. You don't need to guarantee its permanence. Nothing is permanent. That doesn't make it meaningless. It makes attention more valuable. Enjoy without clinging. Love without possession. Build without worship. The practice of impermanence, everything changes. People change. Bodies change. Careers change. Friendships change. Cities change. Technology changes. Your priorities change. Even your identity changes. Instead of fighting that fact, remember it. Temporary things deserve presence, not obsession. You don't need to make everything permanent. You need to appreciate what is here and release what leaves. That is difficult. It is also peaceful. The real meaning of protect your energy. Protecting your energy means protecting your ability to choose. When you're exhausted, everything feels personal. When you're overstimulated, everything feels urgent. When you're resentful, small things become enormous. When you're sleep deprived, decisions become harder. Energy affects judgment, so protect the basics. Rest, silence, movement, food, time alone, meaningful connection, focused work. These aren't glamorous. They are foundational. A calm mind needs a body capable of supporting it. When your mind demands an answer, sometimes you simply don't know. You don't know what they meant. You don't know what happens next. You don't know whether the opportunity works. You don't know how someone feels. You don't know whether the plan succeeds. Your mind demands certainty. You can answer, I don't know yet. That's a complete answer. You don't need to manufacture one. Let uncertainty remain unresolved. Gather information when possible. Then decide when enough is known. Until then, live. The freedom of not knowing there is a strange peace in saying, I don't know. It removes performance. You don't need to pretend. You don't need to predict. You don't need to impress. You simply remain curious. Curiosity is calmer than certainty. It allows reality to surprise you. Maybe things go better, maybe differently, maybe worse. You'll respond. That is enough. The moment you stop chasing signals, not every coincidence is a message. Not every number is a sign. Not every delay is cosmic punishment. Not every encounter predicts destiny. Sometimes a coincidence is simply coincidence. Reality doesn't need to become mystical. Your life can still be meaningful. Meaning comes from how you live, how you treat people, what you build, what you learn, what you protect, what you contribute. You don't need hidden signs. You need clear values. The danger of waiting for the perfect sign waiting can look spiritual. I'll know when it's right. Sometimes you won't. You may never feel completely certain. You may need to choose with incomplete information. That is adulthood. Gather what you can. Think carefully. Listen to trusted perspectives, then decide. Courage often comes after action, not before. You don't always feel ready. You become ready through participation, manifestation, and felfen. Respect if you want a peaceful relationship. Practice peace. Don't chase unavailable people. Don't confuse chemistry with compatibility. Don't negotiate your dignity. Don't ignore obvious patterns. Choose someone whose behavior matches your values. If you want meaningful work, practice meaningful work. Don't wait for perfect motivation. Start. If you want confidence, keep out promises. If you want freedom, reduce unnecessary dependence. If you want calm, stop feeding chaos. Your desired future needs present-day behavior. That's the bridge. Oh, she doesn't chase every opportunity. She evaluates. She doesn't chase every person. She observes. She doesn't chase every argument. She chooses. She doesn't chase every trend. She thinks. She doesn't chase validation. She builds. She doesn't chase certainty. She prepares. She doesn't chase control. She focuses. She doesn't chase peace. She creates conditions for it. That is a powerful distinction. When you want to change everything, sometimes you become frustrated. You want a new life immediately. New career, new home, new body, new relationship, new habits, new identity. You try changing everything. 3 days later, exhaustion arrives. Slow down, choose one area, make one change sustainable, then another. Real transformation often looks boring. That's why people underestimate it. Small choices repeated become a different life. The power of boring discipline: wake up, do the work, put the phone away, eat, move, learn, rest, repeat. It doesn't look mystical, but it changes identity. You stop waiting for motivation. You start trusting structure. Structure creates space. Space creates calm. Calm creates better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. Not every time, enough times. The day you stop fighting yourself, maybe you've spent years criticizing your mind. Why am I anxious? Why can't I relax? Why do I overthink? Why can't I stop? The criticism creates another layer. Now you're anxious about anxiety. You're stressed about stress. You're angry about anger. Stop! You don't need to become your own enemy. Observe, understand, adjust. Your mind developed patterns for reasons. Some patterns may no longer serve you. You can change them without hating yourself. That is gentler and often more effective. You are elected to be a work in progress. You don't need perfect emotional control. You need awareness. You will react sometimes. You will overthink. You will chase approval. You will make impulsive choices. You will regret things. That doesn't invalidate the practice. Notice faster. Recover faster. Learn faster. That's progress. Calmness isn't perfection. It's recovery. The final form of peace isn't a permanent feeling. It's a relationship with reality. You stop demanding that every moment feel good. You stop demanding that everyone behave correctly. You stop demanding certainty. You stop demanding permanence. You stop demanding constant success. Instead, you ask, what does this moment require? Maybe patience, maybe action, maybe courage, maybe rest, maybe acceptance, maybe a boundary, maybe forgiveness, maybe silence. You respond to reality, not fantasy, that is grounded peace. The life you can actually manifest. You can manifest habits. You can manifest discipline. You can manifest better boundaries. You can manifest clarity through reflection. You can manifest competence through practice. You can manifest stronger relationships through honesty. You can manifest opportunities through preparation. You can manifest confidence through repeated action. You can manifest peace through deliberate attention. But you cannot guarantee every outcome, and that is okay. Because the most valuable thing isn't the outcome, it's who you become while pursuing it. The final morning, imagine waking tomorrow. The room is quiet. The curtains move slightly. Morning light touches the floor. Your phone is beside you. For once, you don't reach immediately. You breathe. You listen. The mind begins speaking. You don't fight it. You don't obey it. You observe. One thought says, what if everything goes wrong? You answers, then I'll respond. Another says, what if they don't like me? You answer, I'll remain respectful. Another says, what if I fail? You answer, I'll learn. Another says, what if I lose everything? You answer, I'll rebuild. Another says, what if the future isn't what I imagined? You pause, then you smile. Then I'll meet the future I actually receive. That is radical calm, not certainty. Capacity, not control. Trust, not passivity. Deliberate action, not indifference. Perspective, not giving up on desire. Releasing desperation, not ignoring reality. Seeing it clearly, not becoming emotionless. Becoming less controlled by emotion. That is the difference. Your energy is your day. Something asks for your attention. A notification, a headline, an argument, a comparison, a memory, a fear, a desire, a stranger's opinion, a problem, a possibility. You cannot give everything your attention. Something must be chosen. Choose carefully, because attention becomes thought. Thought becomes emotion. Emotion influences action. Action becomes habit. Habit shapes identity. Identity shapes life. This is why protecting your energy matters. You are protecting the chain. The last question before you chase anything, ask, will having this make me freer? Not richer, not more impressive, not more admired. Freer. Will this relationship give you room to be honest? Will this career allow meaningful effort? Will this possession simplify life? Will this goal strengthen you? Will this habit improve your attention? Will this desire still matter privately? Those questions reveal a lot, because sometimes what we call manifestation is simply consumption. More things, more attention, more approval, more status, more stimulation. But peace often asks for less noise, less performance, less comparison, less urgency, less control, less pretending to. The last practice at night before sleeping, write 3 things. What am I trying to control? What actually belongs to me? What can I release tonight? Don't write 20 pages, 3 answers. Then put the phone away. Let the day end. You don't need to solve tomorrow tonight. Tomorrow will arrive, and when it does, you will meet it with whatever strength you have. Then you'll build more. The woman. Hucho has everything. Imagine a woman who finally gets everything: the career, the money, the relationship, the house, the recognition, the freedom, and still her mind is restless. Why? Because external abundance cannot automatically create internal peace. Peace requires a different skill. Knowing when enough is enough. Knowing what matters. Knowing what can be lost. Knowing what cannot be controlled. Knowing who you are without applause. That is why the richest manifestation is self-possession. To own your attention. To own your choices. To own your response. To own your values. To own your time. Not every circumstance. Yourself. A woman. She wants nothing from the world. This doesn't mean she has no dreams. She has many. She builds. She loves. She creates. She explores. She wants a beautiful life, but she doesn't beg reality to validate her. She doesn't say, give me this, or I'm nothing. She says, I will pursue this, and if reality changes, I will adapt. That sentence contains enormous powers because desperation disappears. You stop chasing. You start choosing. Bliss. The final release, there are things you may never receive: an apology, an explanation, a second chance, the recognition you wanted, the relationship you imagined, the opportunity you expected, the version of the future you planned. You can spend years demanding those things emotionally. Or you can release the demand, not because they didn't matter, because your life still matters. Your future cannot remain hostage to an unanswered question. You deserve movement, not because the past became fair, because life continues. Is not. A reward piece isn't something you receive after everything works. If you wait for perfect circumstances, you'll wait forever. Peace is a practice. You practice it while things are uncertain. You practice it while people disagree. You practice it while plans change. You practice it while you're learning. You practice it while you're rebuilding. You practice it while you're successful. You practice it while you're afraid. That's why it becomes durable. The final shift, stop asking, how do I make everything happen? Ask, how do I become ready for what happens? Stop asking, how do I control everyone's opinion? Ask, how do I remain grounded when opinions arrive? Stop asking, how do I guarantee success? Ask, how do I keep improving? Stop asking, how do I eliminate uncertainty? Ask, how do I become capable inside uncertainty? Stop asking, how do I force peace? Ask, what keeps stealing my peace? Those questions are different. They return power to you. You don't need a perfect future, you need a trustworthy self. Someone who can wake up after failure. Someone who can accept reality. Someone who can change direction. Someone who can say no. Someone who can apologize. Someone who can leave. Someone who can stay. Someone who can love without possession. Someone who can desire without desperation. Someone who can succeed without arrogance. Someone who can lose without collapsing. Someone who can rest without guilt. Someone who can be alone without feeling abandoned. Someone who can face uncertainty without inventing catastrophe. That person can build almost anything because the foundation is stable. The last breath. So tonight, let the mind become quiet. Not perfectly quiet, just quieter. Let some questions remain unanswered. Let some outcomes remain uncertain. Let some people have their opinions. Let some plans change. Let some desires breathe. You don't need to chase everything. You don't need to prove everything. You don't need to control everything. You don't need to become everything. You need to return to yourself again and again and again. Your attention is here. Your choices are here. Your breath is here. Your next action is here. That is where your power lives. Not in controlling tomorrow, not in forcing another person, not in demanding signs, not in obsessing over outcomes. Here, in this moment, with this mind, with this choice, with this breath. That is enough to begin, and beginning is where every meaningful change starts. Maybe the life you want won't arrive exactly as imagined. Maybe it will arrive differently, maybe better, maybe harder, maybe quieter, maybe completely unexpected. You don't need to know. You only need to become capable of meeting it. That is the deepest form of manifestation. You become the kind of person who can hold peace. Even when life changes, you become the kind of person who can hold desire. Without becoming desperate, you become the kind of person who can hold success. Without becoming dependent, you become the kind of person who can hold loss. Without losing yourself, you become the kind of person who can hold uncertainty. Without creating unnecessary suffering. And one morning, perhaps without noticing, you will realize something beautiful. The life didn't suddenly become perfect. Your mind simply stopped demanding perfection. The world didn't suddenly become quieter. You stopped answering every noise. People didn't suddenly become easier. You stopped trying to control them. The future didn't suddenly become certain. You became comfortable meeting uncertainty. And the thing you thought you had to manifest externally was already being built internally. Calm, clarity, self-trust, discipline, perspective, freedom. That is the wealth nobody can take from you. That is the energy worth protecting. That is the peace worth practicing. And that is the life worth becoming strong enough to live.